on Bloomberg Quint.
Watching Primetime, I'm Tamanna.
My name is Ayush Alavadi. Let's have a look at the top stories. Will B.S. Yediyurappa be the Chief Minister for just 3 days? The decision will be taken tomorrow on the floor of the House at 4 p.m. Congress and JDS keep their MLAs under close watch.
New controversy erupts hours before the floor test. Governor's choice of BJP MLA KG Bopaya as pro-tem speaker is questioned by the Congress. They say that the senior-most MLA should have been chosen.
The Allahabad bench of the NCLT asked Jai Prakash Associates to return control of 759 acres of land to JP Infratech. The tribunal calls previous transactions fraudulent, preferential and undervalued.
Tata Steel completes the acquisition of 73% stake in Bhushan Steel, making it the first of the 12 large stressed accounts to be resolved.
And Naresh Goyal says that Jet Airways is not ruling out the purchase of loss-making national carrier Air India. That's a Bloomberg exclusive.
Well, the top story truly nationally is the one unfolding in Karnataka. The stage is set for tomorrow, which will be possibly the grand finale of the high-stakes political battle in the state of Karnataka. Yediyurappa's future as CM, Kumaraswamy's ambition to become the CM, and the Congress's determination to stall the BJP from forming the government will all be decided on the floor of the House of the Assembly at 4 p.m. tomorrow. The Supreme Court also asked B.S. Yediyurappa to not take any executive decisions until then. Let's go across to Arpan Chaturvedi, who was in the courtroom this morning. Amidst all of that action, he's summing up the key arguments on both sides.
Well, when the hearing started today, Mr. Mukul Rohatgi was appearing for two BJP MLAs, informed the court that the letter that the court had asked last time in the previous hearing, which was the letter written by the governor by B.S. Yediyurappa claiming the support of majority MLAs and staking his claim to form the government, that has been produced in the court. And he said that the BJP has enough numbers to show majority in the House. In reply to that, Senior Advocate Abhishek Manu Singhvi got up and he said that the letter that was presented by Congress and JDS already has support of 118 MLAs and that those letters has been signed by the MLAs. In reply to that, again, Mr. Rohatgi says that he contends those signatures, and he's again basically in the whole hearing in the beginning, both parties were trying to show that they have the support of the majority MLAs, and of course the main challenge that was there of the decision of the governor to invite B.S. Yediyurappa to form the government, that legal challenge was also presented by the Congress party. At one point of the hearing, the bench, Justice Sikri, who was hearing the case, said that there are two options in front of him, which is that first he hears the case in full, then decides and then gives a judgment, which will of course take time. Or the second option was that they can order that the majority test or the floor test happens instantly. And the main challenge, the decision of the governor of inviting B.S. Yediyurappa, that legal challenge can be decided later. The Congress party and Senior Advocate Abhishek Manu Singhvi agreed to the suggestion of the bench, and he said that he's okay with the bench giving an order of a floor test tomorrow, and the separate challenge, legal challenge, can be heard later. Then of course the discussions went into the contours and what all will this floor test involve. So the court again made it clear that there will be secret ballot, because the Attorney General had requested that it should be allowed by secret ballot, but the court turned down the request and said there will be no no secret ballot. They said there'll be an appointment of a pro-tem speaker. Then, of course, they also said that the Yediyurappa government, who is the chief minister right now, they will not take any policy decisions until the floor test or the majority is done. And after that, of course, the bench went on and dictated its final order where they included all these points.
We welcome the decision of the Supreme Court. Of course, our expectation was that court might even go beyond that and undo the decision of the Honorable Governor. But yet, whatever decision the Honorable Supreme Court has taken, we welcome this. We congratulate our judiciary for their uprightness, for saving the democracy, and for protecting the Constitution of India.
I'm going to obey the orders of the Supreme Court. Now I will go and discuss with Chief Secretary. Tomorrow I will call for Assembly session and other procedures will follow. And I have got 100% confidence we are going to get full majority.
Now, the jury is still out on who really has majority support in Karnataka. And will it all boil down to the numbers game in Karnataka's Vidhan Sauda tomorrow? Here's a report on the current situation.
आज उच्चतम न्यायालय ने एक ऐतिहासिक आंतरिक आदेश दिया है।
It's less than 24 hours to go, and the Congress and JDS are both trying to keep their flock together. Nishant Sharma is joining us live from Bengaluru. He's been keeping a vigil on all the hectic parleys back and forth on the ground. What is the latest you've managed to gather, Nishant? Are the Congress and JDS confident of keeping all of their MLAs, 117 they claim, all of them together?
Well, right, Tamanna. So Congress JDS alliance is really confident in keeping all 116, 117 MLAs together. Earlier during the day there were apprehensions that 4 of the MLAs, which 2 were from Independent and 2 from Congress, were missing and maybe in touch with the BJP. And then earlier in the day I spoke with Dinesh Gowda, who is the working president of KPCC. He told me that the 2 missing MLAs, Anand Singh and Pratap Godi Patil, they were able to make contact with these 2 as well. So they're constantly in touch with him. And as far as Congress is considered, which has about 78 MLAs, all are united and intact. And as well as JDS is considered, the 38 MLAs are all together. And yesterday we saw both the MLAs of both the parties, JDS and Congress, were taken to Hyderabad. What we have also learned that some of the MLAs of especially Congress, the phones were taken away from some of the MLAs from the Congress camp, and others were also even asked to install recording apps, and therefore in case someone from BJP tries to poach them. And then earlier during the day we saw senior leaders such as former Chief Minister of Karnataka Siddaramaiah and JDS leader Kumaraswamy visiting Hyderabad and meeting with all the MLAs and keep the morale high, kept them engaged. And so efforts have been made in the Congress JDS camp to make sure that the flock is united together and is ready for tomorrow. And if you look at BJP has about 104 MLAs now, in order, which is less than the magic number. Now, in order to win the floor test tomorrow, BJP needs 7 to at least 10 MLAs. And now, how they will get that yet to be seen. Either what they can do is that some of the MLAs from Congress has to resign so that the magic number goes and closer to BJP, and that's where the pro-tem speaker Bopaya, which was assigned by governor today, comes into play. Now, Bopaya has sort of a history with BJP, which date back to 2010 when the vote of confidence was called, and about close to 11 BJP MLAs. Yeah.
Right. No, Nishant, and we really appreciate you joining us and sharing those updates. And I guess it's going to be a long weekend for you as well, because you're going to be tracking this as well. And of course, you can catch all those updates on Bloomberg Quint. Meanwhile, the Congress has hit out against the BJP for appointing BJP MLA KG Bopaya as pro-tem speaker. That is the speaker for the time being. The Congress and the BJP sparred over the issue, with Congress complaining that the appointment is against the rule book, as he is not the senior most legislator in the assembly.
What the BJP has done is not the right thing by asking a person who's not the senior most MLA to be a pro-tem speaker. The pro-tem speaker by convention, without looking at man, woman, party, X or Y, is the senior most MP or MLA.
The BJP has refuted that charge, with Union Minister Prakash Javadekar tweeting out that Bopaya was appointed as pro-tem speaker even in 2008 and hence seniority is not in question. He also said that the Congress's objection to Bopaya's appointment is a hoax. So what can we make of this fresh twist in the Karnataka drama? What can we expect to happen tomorrow? To speak on all of that, we're joined now by political analyst T.S. Sudhir. Thank you so much for speaking with us this evening on Primetime. The million-dollar question really is Mr. B.S. Yediyurappa's confidence justified? Have they managed to really breach the Congress-JDS fortress as per whatever you have learned?
Well, if you go by B.S. Yediyurappa's body language in the evening, it didn't really say anything positive. In fact, the voices that we are picking up from the Karnataka BJP in Bengaluru is that it is proving to be quite a challenge to get some of those extra 8 MLAs to move from 104 to the 112 mark. And therein also comes out an explosive audio conversation which has been put out by the Congress party just a while ago, which makes this allegation that Gali Janardhan Reddy, the tainted mining baron, was heard speaking to the Raichur rural MLA, Baswana Gowda Dadal, in which he makes him an offer, says that he can become a minister, he can make 100 times more money than what he has at this point in time. So everything looking extremely murky at this point in time. The Congress and the JDS MLAs, as I speak now, are still housed in at 3-star hotels in Hyderabad, not yet decided when they want to go back to Bengaluru. Probably they will most likely take off tomorrow morning in order to reach there just in time for the assembly session. There was an option that they could actually take the flight this evening, but then again, they would have to ensure that they check into another resort to ensure that all of them are safe. So a cat and mouse game really being played out at this point in time. The Congress and the JDS wanting to ensure that, barring those 2 MLAs who have gone missing, but even those, the Congress camp says that they will come into the assembly and vote for the Congress-JDS combined. But apart from that, they seem to be quite sure about their numbers. But I think one cannot be really very sure, given the kind of fast-paced developments that we have seen in this entire Karnataka drama.
Mr. Sudhir, I actually wanted to also get your take on the pro-tem speaker situation. Now, Prakash Javadekar, who's played an imperative role in Karnataka this time around, actually tweeted a few hours ago. He says that Shri KG Bopaya was appointed as pro-tem speaker even in 2008 by the then governor. That time, he was 10 years younger than what he is today. The Congress is thus raising hoax objections, he says. The appointment of Bopaya Ji is as per rules and regulations. The BJP in Karnataka is also going with this on their timelines. Now, this whole, all the aspersions being cast over here, do you think that this sort of mars the whole process altogether, considering that the Supreme Court and, the procedure laid out according to the rule book was to sort of vindicate or dispel all of these sort of aspersions, and now these objections seem to be defeating the very purpose of it?
Well, by convention, the the pro-tem speaker is usually the senior most member of the House, and he could be from any party, whether the ruling party or any of the opposition parties, because his or her job is only to ensure that all the members are sworn in as members of the new Legislative Assembly or the Lok Sabha, as the case may be. Yes, KG Boppaya was made the pro-tem speaker in 2008 by the then Governor Rameshwar Thakur, and then of course he was 10 years younger. So to that extent, what Prakash Javadekar says is correct. But what he subsequently did as the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Karnataka from 2009 onwards is what is actually putting a question mark over whether he's really the appropriate person at this point in time, when he also, as the pro-tem speaker, has to preside over the floor test, which is to take place at 4 o'clock tomorrow evening. Because at that time, he had sided with B.S. Yediyurappa. The Supreme Court had castigated his conduct, used harsh language for the kind of the manner in which he disqualified the rebel BJP MLAs at that time to ensure that B.S. Yediyurappa stayed as Chief Minister. So in the context of what KG Boppaya did as Speaker, probably he wouldn't have been the best choice at this point in time, given the fact that the fate of the government of Karnataka hinges on how he conducts himself inside the Karnataka Vidhan Sabha tomorrow.
But Sudhir, if you can tell us here what really is the concern, because in this case, as we have understood, the Supreme Court has made it very clear that this will be a show of hands, it's not a voice vote. What is the concern of what Mr. Boppaya could do tomorrow, and does it really give an advantage to the BJP in this case?
Well, there are conspiracy theories, dime a dozen, Tamanna, at this point in time as I speak. If you speak to the Congress and JDS camp, they're extremely apprehensive of how these things are going to play out tomorrow inside the Karnataka Legislative Assembly. Yes, there is going to be a show of hands. What I'm given to understand is that a group of 5 MLAs will be asked to stand and indicate which side they are voting on, whether it's to the BJP or the Congress JDS combined. Yes, if that happens, well and good. But in case, and that's the Congress JDS apprehension, in case if there is some kind of ruckus inside the House, if we do not know whether the pro-tem speaker has the rights to suspend or disqualify a member, under the Constitution, he ideally should not be. But given the twists and turns that we have seen in this entire drama, one cannot rule out anything, that if there is some kind of ruckus which takes place inside the House, whether any members are suspended, bringing down the strength of the House. The other apprehension of the Congress JDS combined also at this point in time is that whether any kind of arrangement has been made by any of the black sheep within their group of 117 odd to create some kind of ruckus to ensure that the trust vote, the floor test does not really take place. So there is a huge trust deficit at this point in time, ironically, Tamanna, at this point in time, especially from the Congress JDS combined. They do not know what kind of games could actually play out. And at this point in time, even the BJP is having a meeting at the Shangri-La Hotel in Bengaluru to kind of firm up what their strategy on the floor of the House will be tomorrow.
All right, thank you so much. T.S. Sudhir there with all the latest and the analysis of what we could see in an exciting finale to the entire Karnataka drama. But we're going to talk a little bit about it on Primetime Debate up ahead, where we'll also take up the questions about the pro-tem speaker, and is he the one who is supposed to conduct the floor test? Subhash Kashyap, constitutional expert, will be answering those questions. We're also going to be joined by the BJP and Congress spokespersons on how they have conducted themselves. These parties have conducted themselves through this entire situation. Political analyst Harish Ramaswamy will also join in on that conversation.
Right, that's a stellar panel up next on Primetime Debate. Now, but moving on, Karnataka governor's decision to invite the BJP has let the genie out of the bottle, it seems. The Congress and the RJD have walked the talk and have staked claim to form the governments in states where they were the single largest party. The Congress has stake claims in Goa and Manipur, while RJD sought to form the government in Bihar. In fact, RJD leader Tejasvi Yadav asserted that his party can easily clear the floor test if given a chance.
RJD is following the same suit as though being single largest party. RJD wants that Bihar governor should order them, allow them to show their strength. Well, it's an endeavor on the part of RJD too. Let us wait and watch what happens.
See, the problem is most of the Congress leaders are illiterates. Certain things are not reversible. So, I think give it back. I think they are either doing drama knowing it is false, or they're idiots and they don't know what they.
All right, Secretary at the Department of Economic Affairs, Subhash Chandra Garg, says that the currency situation in India is normal now and the cash shortage in the system is over. Speaking to reporters in New Delhi, Garg conceded that rising oil prices remain a concern, but he was non-committal on the reduction of excise duty on fuel. Nikunj Ohri sums up all the highlights from the DEA Secretary's press conference today.
Takeaways from today's press conference is that the government may cut the borrowing plan for the second half of the financial year, meaning October to March, and may opt to not buy back bonds that it had scheduled for. Now, remember, the government intends to borrow over 6 lakh crore in the current financial year on a gross basis, out of which 48% has been scheduled for the first half of the financial year. The Secretary said that the government also intends to change the composition of bonds, as the demand it had anticipated for the shorter tenor bonds has not been as expected, and the government may come out with more longer term bonds after looking at the situation for 1 or 2 weeks. The Secretary has also said that the government is currently not looking at cutting the excise duty on petrol and diesel, and this may continue to pinch our pockets going ahead.
Now, moving on, the Allahabad bench of the NCLT has asked Jai Prakash Associates to return control of 759 acres of land to JP Infratech. The tribunal calls previous transactions fraudulent, preferential and undervalued. Vishwanath Nair sums up the development.
The Allahabad bench of the National Company Law Tribunal, in its order earlier this week, has said that any related party transactions between JP Infratech and its promoter Jaiprakash Associates would be considered fraudulent, preferential as well as undervalued. The order specifically focused on the transfer of ownership of 858 acres of land that was owned originally by JP Infratech and which was given to lenders of Jaiprakash Associates as mortgage to avail loans for the promoter company. According to the NCLT's order, this should not have happened. Essentially, these land parcels were given to Jaiprakash Associates lenders without paying the adequate consideration that was due to JP Infratech. Especially, the transfer of these land parcels happened at a time when JP Infratech was going through its own financial stress, and therefore, without consulting with JP Infratech's lenders, Jaiprakash Associates, as its promoter, had transferred this land to its lenders and then received loans in exchange. The lenders who are involved in this is a consortium of lenders which includes ICICI Bank, State Bank of India, as well as Standard Chartered Bank. In its order, the NCLT said that these transactions would be reversed and the control of this land, about 759 acres worth of land of the 858 acres, would be transferred back to JP Infratech. About 100 acres of land that was given to ICICI Bank back in 2014 was not part of this order because it does not fit under the 2-year look-back period that is mandated under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, and therefore NCLT has no right to judge on those land parcels. Now, this entire event raises two important questions. Firstly, any bidder for JP Infratech in the future, will they have to consider this additional land parcel while they're valuing the company? And the answer to that is yes, because when the 4 bidders who were shortlisted by the lenders were doing their due diligence, the resolution professional in JP Infratech, Anuj Jain, had flagged off these very transactions as related party risk, and therefore the bidders had taken into consideration that there would be some amount of effort required to bring back these parcels of land into control, into JP Infratech's control, and therefore they would have priced the company accordingly. But now, since a lot of this land has come back, it would be important for the bidder to look at that opportunity, of course. Secondly, the second more important question is on Jaiprakash Associates itself. Now, remember, the lenders had given out loans to Jaiprakash Associates on the basis of these mortgage land parcels. So now that the whole transaction has been reversed, what happens to those loans? Will they be called up again? The Reserve Bank of India lawyer at the Supreme Court had already said that Jaiprakash Associates has been shortlisted for insolvency and bankruptcy action by the lenders. So, whatever happens with these loans and whether these loans are being called up by the lenders and whether there will be a recovery procedure that will be initiated against Jaiprakash Associates, this would eventually lead to an insolvency proceeding against the company. So it is important to note that a lot of these things are interconnected, As such, Jayaprakash Associates has to deposit about 1,000 crore at the Supreme Court so that JP Infratech's liquidation proceedings can be stalled till the 15th of June. If they're not able to bring that money within 15th of June, then the company's liquidation process goes on as planned.
Now, in top global news, China has cast doubts on reports that it had offered to reduce its annual trade surplus with the US by $200 billion. According to Bloomberg sources, the offer was made during talks during China's Vice Premier Liu He's visit to Washington last week. Chinese state media and foreign ministry officials have denied making the whole offer themselves. A $200 billion reduction in trade deficit with China was on the list of demands made by the Trump administration earlier this month. The U.S. merchandise trade deficit with China hit a record $375 billion last year. Now, Mike McKee of Bloomberg News joins us live on the show. Mike, I really appreciate you joining us on Prime Time. I'd like to start by asking you what this really means when it comes to the bilateral relations between both countries. Now, we saw what happened with the U-turn that Trump made with Qualcomm and ZTE. Is this a sort of a more of a conciliatory approach between the two countries?
Well, we're not really sure how much conciliation there is. This is more of a political agreement than a trade agreement. At least that seems to be what they are trying to achieve. Remember, the U.S. is supposed to hold a summit meeting with North Korea, and China is the most influential country with North Korea. So the president definitely wants Chinese help with that. So he's trying to avoid making them angry at this point, which may be why he was willing to concede something on the ZTE issue. However, members of the House Appropriations Committee here in the United States put language into a bill yesterday that said the president cannot change the sanctions. So it isn't clear if he's even going to be able to make that deal. As far as reducing the deficit, it would be help to the bilateral relationship, but most economists don't think it's possible. It would require so much additional production and exports from the United States that it's probably not even achievable if they wanted to.
Mike, what do you make of the denials, the half denials really coming in from China? They clearly want to keep the negotiations going, but don't want to admit if they have accepted a $200 billion deficit cut. Can you read between the lines what is really going on?
Well, that's really about politics. After all, Donald Trump has made this a case of China's the bad guy, the U.S. is the good guy. That doesn't play well in China. So the Chinese have to say, no, we're not conceding anything. We're not giving in to the United States. We're negotiating very tough for our own interests. And that's the kind of thing you're going to hear from both sides. What we are waiting to see is what kind of agreement they finally come up with. And then you have to take a step beyond that and see what actually happens. The Chinese have a history of saying, we will do this, but then they don't do it. So it isn't even clear if the president will get a substantive victory out of this, let alone a political one.
All right, thank you so much, Mike McKee from Bloomberg News. They're analyzing the situation from New York. Now, it looks like Jet Airways isn't giving up on the Maharaja just yet. Speaking to Bloomberg in Manchester, Naresh Goyal said that he wasn't ruling out looking at Air India completely. Goyal's comments come after Indigo said it was no longer keen on acquiring assets of the loss-making airline. While calling the move to privatize Air India a brave decision, Goyal said Jet's focus would ultimately be on what is best for the company and the country. And Bhushan Steel becomes the first of the 12 large stressed asset accounts under insolvency to be resolved. Tata Steel has completed the acquisition of 79.44 crore shares of Bhushan Steel as part of its resolution plan under the IBC. This comes 3 days after Tata Steel's resolution plan received a nod from the NCLT.
In a filing with exchanges, the board of Bhushan Steel confirmed approving a sale of shares to Tata Steel's subsidiary Bamnipal Steel for nearly 159 crore rupees. Bhushan Steel, remember, has also appointed 3 Tata Steel veterans, Anand Sen, Rajiv Singhal and Dibyendu Datta, on its board. Bhushan Steel's lenders also received 7.25 crore shares worth 2 rupees each after conversion of loans worth 14.5 crore rupees in the company. It's kind of interesting, Tamanna, that every day there is one U-turn. Sometimes it happens in the middle of the night when it comes to Karnataka. Sometimes it happens in Karnataka. Sometimes it happens in Delhi.
That this is one political story that has been keeping journalists and politicians awake, burning the midnight oil. Will we see the grand finale tomorrow? Well, this is one situation on which I wouldn't stick my neck out.
No one.
It's getting more and more exciting. 4 p.m. will be the floor test. What can we expect? And why is there a row over the pro-tem speaker? We're going to understand that entire situation in detail and talk to our analysts and panelists on Primetime Debate. Stay tuned.
Sorry, I'm late.